Welcome back to Action 2 News at 5. The Wisconsin Claims Board this afternoon not making a formal decision on whether to award millions of dollars to a man wrongfully convicted of a murder in Green Bay.
David Bintz, along with his brother Robert, each seeking more than $2 million in compensation from the state after spending more than 2 decades in prison. The board only taking up David's claim today. In 2000, both brothers were convicted for the 1987 murder of Sandra Lyson. She was abducted, assaulted, and killed after she ended her shift at a local bar. Modern DNA testing cleared the Bintz brothers in 2024, identifying a convicted rapist who died in 2000 as the likely killer. Under Wisconsin statutes, wrongly incarcerated people are eligible for up to $25,000 in compensation unless the Claims Board decides otherwise. Samantha Cavalli listening in on today's hearing. She joins us live in the Fox Valley newsroom with more details. Samantha.
Right, Cami, we've learned via email from the Claims Board administrator that the board actually concluded at 2:45 this afternoon, not reconvening in open session, so about 2 hours. It also states a written decision will be issued on a later date. But as we first alerted you, these claims were filed back in February by the brothers' attorney, Jarrett Adams. Now in July, David, along with Robert, testifying in front of the board in Madison. Action 2 News was inside the room where both David and Robert were overcome with emotion, comforting each other during their testimonies about what they experienced and what they lost while incarcerated. They told the panel that they never got to say goodbye to their mom before she passed away or comfort their sister after her child was killed in a car crash. David even losing his relationship with his daughter, who was 13 at the time of his conviction. Now, this was the first meeting of the board since that meeting took place on July 11th in Madison that I had mentioned and went to, but we reached out to Attorney Adams for an interview, but he was not available for this time. Reporting in the Fox Valley newsroom, Samantha Cavalli, Action 2 News.